Welcome to the Lake Bluff Joint Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting scheduled for tonight, May 17, 2023. Call to order and roll call, please.
Member Danley.
Here.
Member Fisher. Here. Member Miller.
Here.
Member Russell.
Here.
Member Sorensen.
Here.
And then Member Toll. And Chair Peters.
Here. A quorum of the PCCBA is physically present at this meeting. In regards to Member Sorensen, a notice was received by a member of the PCCBA in accordance with village policy, and Member Sorensen will be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the member's electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the PCCBA physically present at the meeting. If no such motion is made, then Ann's request to attend the meeting shall be deemed approved. Meeting electronically shall be deemed approved. Hearing no motion, Ann's request is approved. All right, agenda item number 2, non-agenda items and visitors, public comment time. As the village is aware, we allocate 15 minutes for public comment during every meeting. Is there anyone present who wishes to participate tonight? Hearing none, seeing none. Is anybody involved via the internet?
It does not look like it, no.
Okay. Agenda item number 3, consideration of the April 19, 2023 PCZBA regular meeting minutes. Have the members all had an opportunity to review the minutes? Any proposed revisions or other changes?
Clara, just to clarify, it's one T in my name, not two.
Oh,
Just to make
okay.
it official.
Yeah, I will make a,
Probably should have noticed that 3 or 4 years ago, but Glenn intimidated me, so I couldn't say it.
Yeah, all right. With the exception of that change, any other proposed modifications? Hearing none, is there a motion, please?
No motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Voice vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I abstain, actually. Motion carries. Okay. Agenda item number 4, continued public hearing, residential variations, 525 East Center Avenue. Are the petitioners present? Yes. Thank you. Please rise and we'll swear you in. Are they already sworn in? from the board?
I was going to say, I think they testified last time, so this is a continued hearing.
Okay,
They don't need to be resworn in.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, okay, it's a continued hearing, so you don't need to be resworn.
all right. Thank you.
Hello, board members. My name is Wells Wheeler. I'm an architect. I was here electronically last month due to COVID. I'm here in person now. Last month, Tim very capably presented the case for the proposed shed addition at 525 East Center. And I won't bore you with the details of that. We are still seeking approval. You made some recommendations last month, and we hope that we have managed to achieve success here. Let's see. Next slide is, once again, the house is on Center, on the south side of Center, between Moffett and Maple. The what we discussed last time, we talked about overages on the FAR and the impervious surface. You had made some recommendations to reduce the size of the shed and to reduce the height of the shed. Clara, maybe we go to the, I think the last slide has, well, let's start with the site plan. We have reduced the footprint of the shed to 154 square feet from 176. And we have reduced the impervious surface as a result of that. The board was also concerned with the drainage, and I have consulted with Bleck Engineering, and Mike gave me a couple of pointers on one way to do some subsurface drainage. I know that Mr. Russell had suggested that we do some overland corrections to the site, building in a swale. The driveway pitches down towards the north. The house is, I don't have any elevations on that, but it's, by observation, it does pitch downward to the street. So, and we, in order to cut a swale in there, there might be some minor reconfiguring of the grade to the south of the house, the garage and the kitchen. But I think we can accomplish that. I did a sketch showing a couple, well, showing one way that we could manage to do that. The existing, the driveway is bordered by a lawn, a couple feet of lawn area, and then a planting bed. And it's landscaped, so there's kind of a trench between the lawn and the landscape. And that, I don't know if that would suffice as a swale, but I would think that it would be a good path for water to run downward if we had an overflow. Let me give you one handout here. This would be the proposal. I don't know. Pass these around.
Thank you.
So what we would try to do is get the water from the new shed. It does pitch, this is the low spot. There's a low spot indicated for the inlet to the south of the kitchen. And it does pitch down slightly here, so we would have to reconfigure over in this area. But I think if we work with the village engineer, we might be able to accomplish that. Maybe we go to the last slide, Claire. There, well, this one, previous. Go back one. Here's the revised shed. It's a little over 12 feet tall now. We reduced the sidewall height. And also we've eliminated, right now there's a kind of a patio in that area. So we reduced, we brought the shed down to the adjacent grade. So, and this is in relationship to the house behind. I'm showing the fence. I'm not showing the adjacent garage that's right up against the fence on the neighbor's property. there was some concern about that last month, so I thought I would give you a depiction of the proposed shed. There was also some concern about the landscaping, and I've consulted with a friend at Open Lands, and she's recommended 6 or 8 different columnar shrubs, like arborvitae, that have a narrow diameter and some height. So I can hand off the list to you. I think we haven't gone over each and every shrub yet, but we haven't made a selection. I did put one on the site plan. I called out the one particular shrub. I believe it's called emerald green arborvitae. That one, I don't know if that's a native species. There's a red cedar. There's one called Taylor Eastern red cedar. That's from, as I'm told, a native cultivar. So we'll discuss the sizes and the selection. But we do plan on adding some shrubs around the south and the east of the shed. And I believe that is all the new information that we could provide. The new proposed impervious surface is down to well, it went from 58.5% to 58.2%. That was the amount of the reduction. And that's what I have for you. If you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you. Any history of drainage issues on the lot or in the neighborhood?
Not that I know. The owners have lived there for a year, and we've had a couple sizable rains, but there hasn't been any.
We haven't seen anything. There were some pretty historic rain both last fall and earlier this spring, and we saw no issues with flooding. We actually have, as shown on the drawing, a drain in the center of the backyard that's connected to the storm sewer system, as well as gutters in the house are connected to the storm sewer system. So even with very heavy rains, we have not seen any drainage issues. And actually, in watching this spring rain that we had, water from other adjacent properties are actually flowing on our property and going down the drain. So we are the same for the neighborhood, it seems. And well, so do you want to mention the gutters on the?
Oh yeah, we are putting gutters, or planning on putting gutters on the roof. Those are directed down to downspouts. Those we're advised to direct those over to the existing inlet. But the swale, I'm assuming, is to take care of any surge that starts to fill up the yard.
Well, that would
And,
be.
it's an overflow.
I mean, unfortunately, we had an anonymous complaint about drainage, so we don't know what the source of it is.
Yeah,
You are asking for, an overage and what's allowed.
yeah,
And my thinking is, my experience is that when you have severe rain events in the middle of one of these events, these smaller yard drains don't, especially when you get all your roof for the whole house tied into the same line.
right.
It's not gonna carry all the water, and the water is gonna wanna go somewhere. And that's probably the type of excess water the neighbor would be upset about. And I understand that all the properties on Prospect, they're higher and they come through
And they
your
drain.
backyards. But I think what you're proposing and what I was concerned about, if you can get the water to
Yeah.
the front of the house, it's gonna go. It's gonna
Right.
go because there's about a foot of fall by eye. I don't know what's back there. But when you're building this, in my view, from a drainage perspective, if you can take a look behind the east side of the shed, on the east side of the house,
Yeah,
to make sure that if the water starts building up in the backyard, that it tries to get to Center Avenue and doesn't try to all go east,
okay,
then that would satisfy my concern. Because
Okay.
overland flow, in my opinion, is always the best remedy, because drains clog, pipes fill up.
yeah,
And when you have a big event, you want a path for water to flow. And I'm not
Right.
by any means suggested that the homeowners dig a ditch or a big swale down the front, because the pitch is there
yeah,
once you get to the front. And it's just a question of what is behind in the backyard there. And I don't know, because we don't have access to it. The village engineer didn't get back there. But what you're proposing to do would suffice. So
okay,
I'm personally happy with the proposed drainage solution.
I do have a picture of the back end of the garage, the east end of the garage, which, it's a gravel surface, and I think, we could manipulate it in such a way to build in some kind of swale, to connect it with the
Yeah,
landscape.
it's just based on elevations, and if it's putting a little border along the fence so that the water goes north, that's,
We don't want it to go across the fence.
right, north, you want it to go north.
We want it to go north.
And I can say, based on observation during these heavy rains, I've observed water going north on both sides of the house, straight to the street.
Okay,
In a very significant flow, a notable flow, that when it had stopped, it had cleared all the leaves and the grass were all headed down, and you could see it like a river come through the street. So, if the water's going that way, I can say it.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
Any other questions or comments, Mr. Russell?
well, my only other comment that I made last month is that the applicants do have about 850 square feet of not truly bulk. They're getting penalized because of a bigger eave than's necessary. They're
Yeah.
getting penalized because the porch is a little bit higher. They're getting penalized a lot of floor area because one part of the house is a little bit over what's allowed. So 800, the number is, in reality, is a lot less impactful than what just the sheer math shows.
Right.
And I think it's a unique situation to have three of these factors, so that I'm personally not, the house doesn't read, because the overall
Yeah.
height of the house isn't very big compared to a lot of the new homes, so I'm personally comfortable with what's going on.
No, thank you, Mr.
Right.
Russell.
Thank you.
During the initial hearing a month ago, did you cover the criteria for variation?
The criteria for variation,
Yeah, the standards?
I,
You spoke to kind of what's driving the need.
yes,
And the difficulty.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
Property, the package from last week, which essentially revolves around the small two-car garage. The basement is mostly finished. We have 2 cars, we have 4 daughters who also have cars. We'd like to get both cars in the garage. Both cars are electric, so we want to plug them in a safe area inside. Right now, one half the garage is with storage, lawnmowers and bikes and snow blowers, etc. So we can't get a second car in the garage. So the idea of the shed is to move all that stuff, all the seasonal equipment into the shed, get both cars safely in the garage, and I think really add one utility, because we're not gonna store the lawnmower in the basement, and the value of the home, because now you'll have that additional storage in the backyard and can truly utilize the 2-car garage, which as I said, is not huge. You pull one regular sized car in there and it's tight.
And we did have a request from Ann Sorensen if you continue to speak, if you don't mind coming to the podium, just because it's hard to hear over Zoom.
Yeah. Yes, appreciate that. What height for the proposed arborvitae or whatever you're contemplating?
We would probably be in 8-foot variety. There's some that grow up to 15 to 20 feet, and I don't think that's what we want to be. I think we want to be, there's an 8 to 12-foot version that has a 3 to 4 foot diameter, which is about right. We have a 5-foot setback between the shed and the fence, which is on property line. So we're going to focus on that. And whatever we put in there is going to be small at first anyway. So it'll take time to grow. These are all, these species all grow, they're pretty narrow. Some get up to 5 feet. There are some in there now that I believe are arborvitae or white cedar, but they're pretty bulbous. They're probably 6 foot diameter on those. Yeah. So, and they're going to be in the way. They'll have to come out. And if we can find a new home for them, great. But they are not. They're probably 6-8 feet tall. So, at this point. So we'll be providing screening in there, but nothing overwhelming.
I think you've got a photo, right, of the existing shrubs back there in your packet?
Yeah, that's.
We did.
I've indicated some on the site plan there.
All right. Member Fisher.
I just have one question,
Oh, those
so.
are- yeah.
Oh, sorry. The one question is just, so with the swale concept that George and you were talking about,
Yeah.
in addition, you're doing Mike Black's plan for taking the water off of the roof, right? So
yeah,
it's in combination, right?
Yes,
Not
we'll
either
pipe it directly into the
Right.
existing inlet. Mike gave me a spec on a couple
Right, we saw the
inlet boxes.
correspondent, I just, yeah,
Good.
good.
And the height of the fence is approximately 6 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those things are up to 12 to 15 feet. So
Member
provide a
Danley.
nice screen.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wish we didn't have to take them out.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not gonna survive construction, unfortunately. So we'll replace.
I mean, can you replant at that scale? I don't know.
I don't think so. You would have to get a machine in there to extract those
Yeah.
intact. So I think that wouldn't be possible. But these all are fairly fast growing trees.
Member Danley?
I really don't have any concerns. I mean, you've met the requirements actually of what we asked, You've gone from 176 to 154. You've lowered the height 2 feet. You're working with the overland flow, hiring Black. It looks like you're doing, so much that I really don't have any concerns. I just we're talking about trees after this, so I'm a little sensitive to tree issue at the moment. But as long as you plant and shield and, I just worry about that neighbor behind, everything impervious surface to buildings are cropping up and landscape is suffering. So let's hope we can remember that part.
Thank you. Member Miller?
George, how much do you estimate that the house, the extra square footage of the house is affected by things they can't control, like you were talking about? The overhang and the
I don't have my numbers from last week, but it was about 800 square feet total between the floor being a little bit too high that they were penalized for, the deck in the rear of the house being too high, and these were both by just a foot. And then there was the eaves that were like 9 inches or something wider than what's allowed. So, you know, it made the number, there's 800 square feet in that number that.
That's what I'm saying.
That's not a box on a house. It's,
So if
and
we,
the house itself, and I don't remember the ridge line either but I thought it was just like 20, isn't it just like 26?
Yeah, 26, I believe.
And they're allowed to go 32 or 34, depending
Yeah.
upon the width. It's much shorter than any of the new homes that are built. So I just thought that the bulk
the bulk would probably
issue-
drop by under 4,000.
doesn't read like the numbers indicate that it would read.
And was there an objection to this proposal?
There was a anonymous letter that was given in the packet at the last meeting. It just had concerns with drainage.
Okay, which has been addressed. Okay.
Member Sorensen.
Hi, yeah, a couple questions, just to follow up. I think, Wells, you stated that what I see from the previous photo of the raised land and stone patio, you're now going to bring the overall shed down to grade?
That's correct.
Okay, so those land and stones will be taken away. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay,
Well-
and a couple other questions too, or one is a clarification, I guess. Was there any discussion of doing any below ground water management, any installation of a system for that, as well as the above ground swale?
Yes, we're installing gutters on the shed and directing those gutters through pipes underground to the existing storm inlet.
Okay, but no, not a holding pit of any sort?
No, we haven't. I did talk about a holding tank with Mike Bleck, and he said, you know, if conditions well, he seems to believe this would take care of it,
Okay,
but that's
Okay.
always a possibility.
probably for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just if you're committed to doing the swale, just a point of clarification from a landscaping perspective, you know, it would be most beneficial rather than it being solely grass to put in some, you can do low growing but native plants that will slow down the flow of water. That's part of the point of the swale. So I think you've got a good contact there with the open lands person who can help you out with that.
Right, right. We'll get some deep root native plants.
Yeah, okay. That'll look nice too.
Yep.
All right, that's all, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sorensen. Is the petitioner opposed to a condition whereby there might be, say, 5 medium-sized arborvitae or whatever similar to an arborvitae to start that, tree replacement scenario?
No, I think we would call that out on the drawing. We intend to do that.
Yeah.
We're not only not averse to it, we're planning to do it.
Yeah, we specified 5 arborvitae.
And I guess, like, more specifically, what height are you proposing?
That's something we haven't discussed yet. All of the ones that were recommended they're not all in the same range. I mean, some of them are quite short, but the American arborvitae is 3 foot to 4 foot diameter and 12 to 14 feet. So that's
We're open to going higher as long as the width will fit in that 5-foot
Right.
space. So I think we would want to go as
Yeah,
high as.
If the shed is
we
12
like
feet, I
this.
think we would shoot for 12 to 14.
Yeah.
Sounds right where we want to be.
yeah. So we can be more definitive once we discuss it, but
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense
No.
Right?
No, we want them to be tall enough.
Yeah,
and-
we want to add to the landscaping.
Yeah.
No other questions from my perspective. Any further discussion among the members? Is there a motion? We're a recommending body on this particular petition.
I move to recommend to the village board to approve the requested leaf conditioned upon the inclusion of the supplemental materials this evening and the installation of landscaping that extends at least higher than the fence, or
Yeah.
I don't know if someone wants to come up with a number, but
Okay.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, if we could have a vote, please.
Member Danley?
Aye.
Member Fisher?
Aye.
Member Miller?
Aye.
Member Russell?
aye.
Member Sorensen?
Aye.
And then Chair Peters.
Aye.
All right.
Next steps for the petitioner, Ms. Gable.
The next steps will be to go to the village board and we'll work on getting you on for the next possible meeting. Yeah, likely Monday night.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Make the process led us to a better conclusion, so thank you.
You can put that in your packet.
All right. Thank you.
If you want to keep this one.
Can I keep the copies just so I have those for the board packet? Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 5, staff report.
Yeah, so I wanted to provide an update, just letting you know that at the April 24th Village Board meeting, the professional services agreements with Tesca for the comprehensive land use plan and with Opticos for the missing middle housing analysis were approved. And we will be, staff will be meeting with them on Friday, just to start with the planning process, and there will be more updates to come on that. And then the other thing just to note is that the village received approval of a grant for updating our tree ordinance and also kind of updating our tree inventory. And as part of that, there are required updates to our tree ordinance that need to be made. And so what I provided you with was just a really broad overview of some areas that they've indicated that we need to change. So for instance, the statement, there needs to be a statement of value added into our tree ordinance, and some other additions or changes made with different parts of our ordinance. So we're working on that, and we'll give you a more substantial update of that in the near future. And then the second part of the tree discussion is just something that was recommended by member Danley regarding heritage trees. And so I was able to look at a few communities and get the just kind of general regulations. There's 6 communities within the general vicinity of Lake Bluff that I was able to find, and the heritage tree regulations varied greatly. Some have specific types of trees that constitute heritage trees. Some just have certain sizes. Some of the communities just require a special permit with specific justification in order to remove a heritage tree. Some require going to the PCZBA. Some require village board approval. So it really just varies, but this is just to kind of start getting an idea if this is something we would also want to look at with our tree ordinance update.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you go ahead, but yes, I think how timely, right, that we have this going on at the same time that perhaps we could clean up or clarify what we have, because wasn't it 2018 or 2000? It's been a while since we've had our tree ordinance looked at, and I would really encourage our group here to spend some time on that. And I don't know if that's, something we could discuss or vote upon, encourage.
No, I think an aggressive tree ordinance is a very, very much an asset from a regulatory perspective, and I thought at the time we were quite aggressive. Maybe we should be more aggressive, but subject to discussion. I guess, Courtney, how does our tree ordinance compare with some of the other villages that your firm represents, or maybe you haven't had an opportunity to review?
I haven't had an opportunity to review yet, but I know, Clara pulled some here. We'll take a look and go based off that. But if it's been since 2018, there's definitely, room for revisions just as time goes on. So we'll take a look, though.
I mean, if that's appropriate, Clara.
To look at, sorry,
Yeah,
what was your
to have
question?
that critical review by Courtney's firm.
Yeah, I think what our kind of next steps with this is to look at the recommendations that were made to us by the group that is administering the grant, basically Morton Arboretum. They are providing specific kind of recommendations to our tree ordinance that we would need to change in order to receive the grant. So that's the first step. And then, as I mentioned, Member Danley brought up the heritage tree regulation that she wanted us to look into. So if you guys want to discuss, kind of if you've looked at these approaches and if there's certain ones, if you want to do it at all, that's something that you guys can discuss. And then also the Sustainability Committee has recently brought up that they want to take a look at the species that we allow and don't allow, which is also something that the Arboretum had pointed out that we need to take a look at.
Do we have that list here, the species?
So it's in the tree ordinance that was provided as part of your packet towards the end, I believe.
No, I think one of the questions that we were asking, correct me if I'm wrong, but was also about fees, how much, was that part of what?
Right, and I think that would probably fall under like the, not the penalties, but the permits, yeah.
Okay, to remove, and can you remind me, if you have a lot and you're building a new home or you're building an addition or something like that, and there is a tree that matters, what happens right now in our current ordinance? Do you?
True, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the tree can be removed, but there's fees required
There would
and
be a penalty
replacements
type.
required.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, that's generally true. So, but I think going back in time, when the village created the tree ordinance that's really in place today, it was at that time fairly rigorous. It's certainly much more so than it used to be in the village. But there are communities that have more restrictive regulations for certain. And I think, if my recollection serves me, the Morton Arboretum's regulations aren't pushing for more strict management of trees. It's more, this is kind of nibbling around the edges of our ordinance, making sure it has certain things to include tied to, I think, a tree management plan and some other things that the village is in the process of updating its tree survey, and so linking all those pieces together. And I do think some of the species diversification is recognizing the change in weather patterns and, you know, maybe having a longer list of trees to pull from that, that may not have been on a lot of communities' lists for various reasons. But you may need to just broaden that to diversify the species for the long term. Just know that these weather events are changing the way trees survive in our region.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Drew.
One aspect that I hope that the village can get into, because it's only money, is a proactive care of our really valuable trees in town. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, we had an expert come in and
The bur oak.
feed the big bur oak that's on the corner of the fire station there. It was looking
Peaky.
very sad. And we all see some of the massive oaks around town that look very sad, and they're on the way out. And I'm personally a believer because of a neighborhood experience where a neighbor had 3 or 4 oaks that were suffering horribly, and they had an expert come in that knew how to feed them and feed them correctly and when to do it. And all of those trees revived, and this was about 15 or 20 years ago, and they all look great to this day. I know that the first two trees that I would put on the list are the 2 oak trees at the west end of the village green. We have 2 massive oaks in the village green that I think need care. They've got dead material up in there, and the tree ordinance isn't going to help them. That's a separate component where we have to proactively take care of the trees, and it's got to be done by someone that really
expertise.
knows
Yep.
trees.
What they're doing.
And I think at this point, because the community is so built out, that would do more for our village tree-wise than, I'm still in favor of reviewing the ordinance and fixing it where it needs to be fixed, but and as I said, it's money, because that costs money to good people, get paid a lot.
Yeah.
But that's something that I hope we can encourage as part of updating the tree regulation.
And something that is also required as part of this grant, but I didn't really dive into it in the staff report, is an urban forest management plan is something that's required as part of this as well. And there's kind of different requirements that you can pick from. And some of those requirements do go into that, kind of having a plan for the next 5 to 7 years as far as which trees are going to be, taken care of or to have different maintenance done on for a period of time. And I've been working with Public Works Supervisor to kind of talk that through. Still in the early stages, but that's something to.
And there are trees. I mean, we're doing some of this is writing down, right? We're doing these things already, right? There's bur oaks and ashes that we're giving vitamins to, nursing, giving extra waterings, doing different things pursuant to those directives. But I would not disagree with you that being more aggressive about that and finding trees maybe that are not in the 4th quarter of their lives, maybe finding some in the 3rd or and getting those early. Taking care of those, what you're saying, the existing canopy trees is probably money well spent.
And then a very simple thing that I learned, I think my first year in the village, and it was a guy, Dr. George Ware from the Morton Arboretum. He's probably passed away now. But he made the point back in the early 90s that one of the biggest mistakes that they make everywhere is the volcanoing of trees.
Oh.
And I still see it to this day.
The what did
You
you
are
say?
not supposed to pile wood chips up against the bark
Mulch,
of trees.
yeah.
And people think it looks nice, but it is horrible. If you ever see a tree that's got wood chips piled all up against it, just go up to the tree and scoop your hand right up against the bark of the tree and take away 2 inches of mulch, and it's soaking wet. And that bark stays wet all the time, and it rots. It promotes rotting. And it is such an easy thing, but you still see it. And unfortunately, some people do it to our parkway trees. They have their own landscaper
Residents,
come
yeah.
in and So I hope, that's just a pet peeve of mine, that I hope when we do the, we can get that
We will
word
get
out.
village
It
issued
can be in
gloves
a-
for that
Can be
task,
in the
yes.
news, if you're always looking for good material for the newsletter,
Yes,
to put it in there.
Maybe you should
I-
go around town and put notes on people's door. Get the mulch
That
away
have
from
the
that
mulch.
tree.
good
It's
stuff.
only money.
It's only money.
Oh, it seems like the timing is perfect, especially with that grant, so tremendous. Anything else, Ms. Gable, from a staff report?
No, that's it.
All right. Agenda item number 6, Commissioners' report.
I have one thing. I don't know if anyone's noticed, and maybe Drew should be tooting the horn, but for 3 days now, we have had a regulation in place in the village, and it's not being followed universally, but
It's more quiet.
we have a new ordinance that doesn't allow contractors to use gas-powered
That's right.
leaf blowers during the summer, and it is a noticeable difference in our neighborhood. We have
Agreed.
where we have a neighbor that used to use a monster thing all the time, and he has agreed to not do it for the summer through September 30th. And the village has created door hangers, which
Right.
some of my friends and my wife are involved in handing them out.
Fantastic volunteers, yeah.
Yesterday, I was walking up Prospect, and there was a contractor that had right behind Drew's house, in fact, had a gas-powered blower going that was noisy as heck. And I walked up to him and gave him one of these, and he immediately said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did not know." And if anyone would just like 2 of these, so if you see a contract, there's a lot of small contractors out there that don't know it yet. Just hand them one of these. It's, it's written, one side is in Spanish, and I think it's very effective.
No, it's been great, and
To be able to hand something that looks professional, and they get,
Is
because there's a
professional.
lot of small landscapers out there
yeah, and
that don't know.
our police officers are driving around, and when they see contractors, said, hey, just so you know, if you don't already know, and that's in addition to the village sending letters. We don't license landscape contractors, but we sent letters to our sister cities list of contractors that they license, said, hey, so you know, so they've received that, and I think we've had 2 calls for service for the police to go out and talk to somebody about this, but the police are proactively handing these out as well, along with the volunteers, so.
What about electric blowers?
But I'll
Those
pass-
are-
Electric's totally fine.
Pass them down. If anyone would like a couple to just keep in your pocket.
I have a question about street maintenance. I think
Yes.
That falls within our purview. What are we gonna do with Sheridan Road? It is in absolutely horrible condition.
Which leg? It is,
Bridge to end of Blodgett, it's miserable.
The bridge to the end of Bluff.
so it is on IDOT's list. We met last week, or 2 weeks ago now, with the Secretary of Transportation about the viaduct and the flooding and the deep tunnel project. And we talked about Sheridan Road and the full recon of that and the bridge that's on IDOT's radar. But it is under the jurisdiction of the state.
Right.
They have done some minor resurfacing here and there.
It's terrible.
And yeah, no argument. There have been a number of stormwater culverts that run up and down further north of there that are in very poor condition. And we have flagged that to their maintenance crews, and which you see as a result of multiple proddings. But yeah, it's not because of the low intensity of traffic, and it's flat, it's straight, so it doesn't get a lot of attention.
Yeah,
So.
but they're aware of it now.
They have, yes, they are aware of it, for certain.
Is that right, my state representative?
Sure, that's a great person to start with. Persons, plural, yeah.
Can I ask one more question on this? I was asked what other communities are doing this. Are other ones doing it as well, or are we the only ones?
So part of the analysis was, there are a number of communities that have already had this on the books for years. So it was kind of, I think the village board viewed this, hey, we're kind of catching up with some other communities. Highland Park, Glencoe, Winnetka, all had this already.
Do it already? Okay.
Yeah, and others. And so, and it's been interesting, I think part of that, there was a large group that studied this issue, and one of the goals was maybe there can be some homogeneity in how everybody, you know, administers these regulations so that it's easier for the service providers, right? Hey, it's one set of rules. Of course, that didn't happen. And for most of the communities, that they just took the next step on the continuum of regulation or in the process of doing that. So communities that had already had a seasonal ban are looking at 10 or 11 month ban or something. You know, they're trying to narrow and narrow and narrow it. Others are just, you know, others that have no regulation are looking at maybe instituting some regulation. So it's an evolution.
Lake Forest, do they do it?
They were part of the study. They are studying the issue, is my understanding.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you're hearing loud noises, it's our neighbors to the
From
south.
Lake Forest.
Yeah. But I agree with you, George. There was a noticeable difference.
Highway
Good job.
41, Drew, how many years out into the future?
The 41-176 interchange project is in the multi-year plan for the state. I think the last time when we did the phase one, it was probably 35 million. It's probably 50 million now, 55 million, who knows? But it's one of those projects that the state wants to do, that it's been in Governor Pritzker's announcements of the multi-year plan in the past, so we expect it to happen at some point. They're still dealing with a procurement issue. Part of phase two is they need to do, they plan on doing the stormwater elements and putting in a new pumping station there and further north at the viaduct. They have to do that in advance of when they lower the road and do other things and get that functional before they do the rest of the work. But they're bumping into their own federal procurement requirements that they have a domestically made pump for those pumping stations, and there are no domestic producers of said pumps. And the state has tried to get in front of the feds to get heard, to get a variation from their own procurement rules, and they cannot get an appointment because those are under review. And so they're stuck in neutral. So, and they still also have to do land acquisition as part of that. But there's little pokes in there. The state gave us some updated plans to review, and we hired the firm that did the original phase one for us to go back and review the plans, and that's happening now. But, you know, it's like most things at the state, just glacial is the pace.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay. Hearing none. Agenda item number 7, adjournment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Voice vote? All in favor? Aye.
Oh, one last thing. What's coming up next month? What's on the agenda so far for next month?
There are no formal petitions on the agenda for next month yet.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.